payments modernization discussion. Allow me to move forward. I'll introduce myself. My name is Craig Windle from Adastra. I'm a practice lead working in the regulatory compliance, risk management, data governance components. I've worked helping out financial institutions and financial services companies for over 25 years, whether it's migrating to new initiatives, new services or systems, as well as focusing in the regulatory space to ensure compliance and the advancement of payments and other functions within the treasury areas. Go ahead, Fotis.
My name is Fotis Papasargiou. I'm the product manager in payment components. I will present myself and my company in a few slides ahead. Craig, you have all the space.
Yes, great, thank you. So we do want to talk about what's happening in the Canadian environment in relation to payments. We're talking about a lot of the payments modernization. Countries around the world have been migrating to more data-rich transaction information, retiring some of the old insufficient processes and standards, and trying to move to a single feed with more data to meet more consumers of the payment information. They're going to break the chain of the reliance on the manual check processing services and removal of the need for business and financial institution for manual payment matching, enabling automation, reconciliation, and flow-through accounting entries. These are some of the major activities that are happening in the landscape within Canada. There are many benefits that are happening, and they're led by the technology. There's a faster adaptability to the changing technology. There's potential for programmable smart money, less reliance on the manual processes, and enabling innovation for future products and services, as well as the global adoption of the ISO20022. Canadians are choosing more convenient digital ways to make payments, whether it's the digital tap, e-wallet payments, email money transfer payments, and pre-authorized payments. These are some of the changes that are happening. And with that, there are 5 key initiatives underway in Canada. Rebuilding the foundation for high-value transaction settlements in the securities industry through the links migration. Real-time capability for urgent, low-value transactions with regards to the real-time rail, and enabling third-party development overlaying the financial services. There's new infrastructure for batch payments and enhanced EFTs. They're aligning the rules to global best practices, rules and standards through the ISO20022 alignment, and they're rewriting the rules governing all types of payments. Better support for Canadians and Canadian businesses, support the infrastructure for the standards management framework. These are technology-led and technology-enabling to meet the customer's expectations. These are enabling international payments as simple as domestic payments. It requires a coordinated partners in industry and technology to deliver. Consumers are requiring more data in the transaction. That requires an infrastructure upgrade and rules for payment modernization. This is a global adoption of the large standardization. Everyone benefits with the modernization, from transactors, customers, FIs, and governments. We're looking at enhanced remittance information, an efficient automated reconciliation of payments, integration with commercial accounts and receivable systems, enabling efficient payments for businesses, governments, financial institutions, enabling payment tracking, minimizing the issue resolution. This is a simple solution to a complex problem that's creating a single standard for domestic and international payments, less costly processing, single format and terminology, and it's reshaping the Canadian landscape for payments through the links on the high value and the real-time rail for the low value real-time payment systems. Let us help you modernize. Adastra is working with the leading software accelerator in the payment industry. Payment components can get your organization connected to the ISO20022 quickly and smoothly. Payment components has been delivering related ISO20022 solutions for over 20 years. Adastra is ready to support Canadian organizations for the migration and support the delivery into production. Please allow me to introduce Fotis to tell you more about their solution.
Thank you very much, Craig. Thank you
Go
for the
ahead.
interesting things you've shared with us. Let me share my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me when it's everything displayed properly.
Looks clean.
Okay. So my name is Fotis. I'm the product manager here in Payment Components. And before we dive into this presentation, let me tell some more few words about our company. Payments and open banking is our expertise. It's what we are doing for many years now. And we are actually helping banks and financial institutions to navigate through this new emerging landscape in payments and banking in general. We have more than 60 clients in more than 23 countries and with a strong network of partners worldwide. Adastra is our trusted partner in the Canada region. Our products are being used by financial giants like JP Morgan, Citigroup, Credit Suisse, but also from core banking providers like Temenos, Mambo, regional banks, neobanks, and fintechs. We have managed to acquire this impressive clientele because we believe that coping with change should be a simple process. Like our founder and CEO, Mr. Sotiris Nosis, likes to say, if it's not simple, it's wrong. So for the complex problems that we see in the financial industry, we go for componentized solutions, solutions that provide flexibility and agility to the systems. And this is something that we see as a great need in the current landscape in banks. So about ISO 20022. ISO 222, as you probably know, is the common base language that the whole world is transitioning to. For some countries or regions, like the European Union, we have made this journey quite some years ago at the beginning of the 2000s, and we call this SEPA, the scheme based on the ISO 222. Other countries and regions are now making plans or have already started this transition. What we see ahead of us is actually many payment infrastructures undergoing critical changes. This is the common theme. So let's put this change in a context. Let's put more context in this change to highlight the significance. We're talking about making a change in the way we communicate information about payments, about account-to-account payments. And payments, we have to think, are the fundamental action that an economic agent can do to our economy. It's like the fabric of our economies, the bloodline in our economic systems. So we are making a drastic change in this fundamental level. So every system that utilizes information about payments will be affected. And this, we believe, will bring even more changes to the payment landscape. So the only constant we see here is change. And this actually requires open and flexible systems, quite the opposite of what we see today in banks. So why ISO 222 migration? Okay, first, it's the first time that we are trying to speak a common language for the whole financial industry. It's a richer language, much richer than the previous one. And it starts with payments, but it will go over to security, to trade financing, and so on. Here we see a nice overview of a project related to ISO adoption worldwide. We see that this change is affecting payments everywhere. So we have, like Craig said, links here in Canada, like Target 2 in Europe, which are for the high value payment, let's say, systems. They are making this change, like a big bang, one-day change, this November 2022. In parallel, November 2022, the cross-border payments for the whole world are starting to change. CBPR Plus is a new standard based on ISO that will start to replace Swift MTs, the previous standard. And of course, since 2021, many regions and many countries have started this journey as well. So, what is the problem with the current standards? What we have to understand is that a payment message has to undergo significant transformations every time it passes from a local to regional to a, let's say, a global network. At every gateway, it has to be changed. So this leads to many inefficiencies, loss of information, and what we actually end up with is either with errors introduced into our messages or with loss of information. And this loss of information in a data-rich business world is a bad thing for payments, for the financial industry. So this is what has to be changed. And the benefits for adopting ISO 20022 are many. So the main trend that we understand for ISO 222 change and for other technological changes is that we are actually trying to channel more things over to machine communication rather than human to machine communication to make things more efficient, to make things go even faster. We live in a 24/7, 365 economy. So the financial industry is going to follow this pattern as well. So ISO 222 is not only valuable, but it's inescapable. It's just one step towards this path to more machine-to-machine communication. So what banks can do to cope with this change and other changes that will come afterwards. There are two ways that we have identified for dealing with ISO 222. One is a translation solution, and the other is going for the full-blown migration. Let's go over each one. A translation solution will look something like this. We have data over to a core banking system. Let's say that probably already is creating a Swift MT or whatever proprietary message, financial message. And then we need to have a solution in place that will translate this message to the ISO equivalent. Then it will send it out to the networks, receive a reply or receive an incoming, and it has again to undergo a translation to this previous standard, the Swift MT. This solution has many issues. The main theme here is that you need to you have an ISO, a rich format message, which is an ISO message, and you have to squeeze all this information to a smaller one, which is like Swift MTs. All this extra information is valuable knowledge that it would be good for compliance, for risk assessment, for future products. All this knowledge is a problem that institutions that will adopt the translation solution will have to deal with these issues as well. So we see rather this solution to be like good for a head start, a quick head start, but not for the long term. It's a stopgap solution for institution. If they want to reap all the benefits for the ISO 222 standard, then they will have to go to a migration solution. This is actually the case where the core system provides all the necessary data, and this solution builds the native ISO 222 message. It ships it out, receives the reply or whatever, and then all this information is parsed, is stored somewhere. It communicates with third-party systems like AML, like data lakes, whatever it's needed to get the benefits out of all this rich information. So we believe that a migration solution is going to be a, a best strategy. Of course, it has some disadvantages. It requires more commitment. It requires heavier, let's say, investment upfront. But if someone wants to actually reap all the benefits, that's the way to go. If banks adopt this migration solution, they will be more efficient in handling current business needs and business problems, and we will see greater innovation and collaboration as the characteristics of this industry. Closed system will become more open and interconnected. So what you need in both cases, actually, it's a message hub. And what we need by saying a message hub, you see here that there is a payment component, a payment hub that sits right next to your core banking system. And we believe this is the approach because it will be easier for the current situation for banks to have a common component that will provide more flexibility to them. They will make them more open. They will be more configurable as a system, more agile if you wish. And it will be more easily rearranged than the core banking system, and more easily will be able to adapt to constant change. They will have the option not to rely on legacy and monolithic systems, but they will manage and operate on valuable components. Either this is for payments or for lending, for investing, or for whatever core banking functionality. So actually, replacing a legacy system, it's either too time consuming or too expensive. So if you embrace this philosophy of components, a new world is going to open up where everything will be more easily manageable. Uh, they will be able to cope with constant change, with be in line with industry best practices, and become more competitive toward neon banks, which is also a hard thing to do nowadays. So our solution, our payment hub, it's called Upland Hub, and of course, it supports both approaches, even translation, where you can continue supplying the regular Swift empty message, and Upland Hub will manage and will handle all the complexity about the translation, send out the message, receive the ISO1, the new one. It will store this rich message for future process if you want, and send back a previous Swift empty message to the core system. Or we can even, banks can even work with the migration solution with Upland Hub. They will provide just the necessary information, and Upland Hub will construct the native ISO message and will handle all the processing, all the back and forths, and the parsing, the validation, everything that's needed for the payment system. It can be deployed on cloud, it can be on premise, whatever is the strategy of the bank, Upland Hub can support it. And for those that probably say that, okay, we do not want just another application into our ecosystem. We already have too many applications in our ecosystem. For here, we have to say, because we believe in components, that Upland Hub is a pretty modular system. So for those that just need to integrate a small module to cope, to handle with ISO migration, we have solution for this problem too. We believe that whatever is the approach that the banks and financial institutions want to follow to deal with constant change, we offer components that can make things easier. Changes does not have to be fearsome or complex. It can be interesting and manageable. Just you need to have the right tools and perhaps the right partners to help you with that. I'll welcome again, Craig. Thank you
Yes.
all for your attention, and probably we can have a quick Q&A session.
Yeah, thanks, Fotis, for that. That's a really great overview of the payment components functionality and addressing the different components of how to address the migration adoption of the ISO20022, both for companies ready for the full migration or that they want to get started with a slow translation and a step-by-step migration to be able to handle. I think we talked earlier about some of the timelines for the translation methods in the migration. While it's a large change for the organization, I think you were saying that it's not that too difficult for people to adopt, and the timeline is fairly reasonable. Do you want to give us some talk about that?
Yes, to repeat some, let's say, deadlines, critical deadlines. In Canada, there is this shift for the high value payment system links on November 22. The same goes for Europe as well with Target 2. In parallel, we have the cross-border payments starting to adopt the CBPR plus standard, which will eventually replace SWIFT MTs. They have given a 3 years grace period for the cross-border payments, but eventually after 3 years, or it could be 5, but eventually the whole world for cross-border payments, it will change to ISO20022.
Right. And in your experience handling the translation or migration approach, what's the timeline that you could see for organizations looking for those adoptions?
Yes, if they use the componentized approach, let's say that they use a solution like Applon Hub
Mhm,
to handle all the complexities about the ISO migration, the most common, let's say, timeline we see with our projects is around 2 to 3 months.
mhm.
This is the time frame that we give when we start every project, and it seems like this is the sufficient time needed for
Yes.
make all the integrations requested with the core banking system. Because with the networks, Upland Hub can actually play just out of the box. You
Mm.
just plug it to the Swift connections and can play.
Well, that's great. Uh, November is around the corner. It is, in flight, and the industry is currently working on the testing, making sure that it's ready to go in the Canadian environment. And certainly, it's an area that people are focusing on right now. And there are many projects underway, competing for time and resources. This is one of the areas that people can really adapt to, and from your experience, adapt it relatively quickly, which is great.
Yes, we believe that in general, in the financial industry, banks have understood the need to transition to this more rich format of messages because, as I said during the presentation, the rest of the business world has already become data centric. So
Hmm.
banks are following on the same path, and ISO 222 will help them do just that.
Okay, great. We can open up for questions from any of the attendees. We thank you for your time. Go ahead if you have a question. Okay, there's a question come through. Question from Oscar. How do you handle the local formats and the internal flavors of every bank? Meant to customize, mean to customize that takes a lot of time or not? Oh, that's a great question, Oscar. So each of the unique local formats, but we're talking, I think in this case, we're looking at the ISO 20022 approach. But I guess the internal core bank needs to have an API. Maybe Fotis, you could talk about how you accept the data, from various sources and how you handle
Mhm.
it,
Yes.
the MT.
Uh, Before I answer this question, let me give you an overview. ISO 222 is like a standard that was built by the ISO organization, and it refers to the whole to all transactions in the financial industry. So what we are now seeing is that many payment authorities or global organizations like SWIFT has taken these ISO standards and used them as their base to build upon their own standards. So ISO 222 was used from SWIFT as their base to build the CBPR Plus for cross-border. The same goes for Target 2 and the same goes for links as well. They've taken ISO 202 and built some extra validation. They put some extra fields and they made it, they customized this to cover their own needs. So the first question that Oscar, I think, was referring to is how we cope with this kind of changes. Well, it's kind of pretty easy because we have worked a lot with this kind of messages. So we are very used to working with these basic, let's say, ingredients, and then add some custom validation. We have done it in other areas with other regions like Africa. We recently have concluded a project in Nigeria where we helped them design and we implemented, developed and implemented their local ISO 222 local scheme. And we have done this for other regions as well, for Scandinavia, P27. Uh, these are minor, let's say, validations that are added because ISO covers a lot of stuff comparing to the previous ones. So to answer also your question, uh, Upland Hub can actually integrate with a core system with many different types, either through APIs, with file exchanges, with MQ series, whatever is supported from the side of the bank, we can who can grab this information that we need. Of course, we prefer APIs, RESTful APIs. We believe this will be the future of communication. But okay, whatever is the case, we can adapt.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Oscar. Any other questions from the attendees? Anybody from the Canadian sort of landscape for payments interested in the timelines or anything that's upcoming? I know it's a very exciting time that, the migration from the old to the new is always a, opportunity for transition. But I think in this case, we're really being able to really get data rich information being passed along that really, infers a lot of the information that's available and also helps out in a lot of areas. I know back in the 90s, I was doing, reconciliation of payments, and it was just a limited pieces of information. You really had to do a lot of manual work. This is going to really sort of take away all that manual activities, full automation availability, and much more data to be able to do the match and provide, good guidance.
Yes, I agree. And also, what we also see ahead is that this change, this transition to ISO 232 will also enhance open banking because banks will sit upon richer information. They will have more data to serve to corporate clients, to retail clients, to whoever now through open banking has access to this data. So we see these major, let's say, pillars like the ISO20022 migration and the open banking converging to a very interesting future for the financial industry. And of course, at the future, we see embedded finance and so on.
Oscar's got another question. Are there any new data use cases beside payments where you can use this increased amount of data? Yeah, for sure. Like the enhanced remittance information is going to help out in a lot of areas for, both payments and reconciliation, accounts receivable activities, payment tracking, but also identifies kind of the new products that might be, offered from financial services that, might benefit from this, having this information. Um, there's a lot of regulatory pieces that need to be sort of brought together from any money laundering, gathering more information. So those are other areas that sort of can connect into the payments. Fotis, do you see other areas where this the ISO 20022 is benefiting other areas of financial services?
Of course, let's not forget that the transition is starting from the payment landscape, but we already have standards for securities, so for trade financing, and we believe that they will continue this trend. All old messages, let's say, they will at some point transition to ISO-based messages. And then we will for sure have a universal language for all the transactions in the financial industry.
Yeah. Or like there is a larger volume of data that's coming through the KYC activities. There's more information that's being gathered from the customers, more information that's being gathered related to transactions, and having that data-rich information. It makes sense to start sharing it in a wider network, so that there's other uses for that information rather than just the functionality of the payment reconciliation. Um, and those are where we're getting insights on who are the customers, what are they using the information for, and how can we benefit the holistic view of a customer and a holistic view of the marketplace.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with you. And I believe it will also, by forcing banks to make these changes and be in the mindset that things are going to change frequently, it also introduces the idea of constant innovation. We see down the line other payment schemes like instant payment, request to pay,
Mhm.
and all these interesting things coming. So if we keep that in mind, that now the banking sector, the financial sector is becoming more open, because uh, some years ago, even open banking was not in their dictionary. So now we are seeing a complete transformation for in this industry, not only in terms of digital transformation, but in the way they used to do business. We see banking as a service. So all these are, let's say, small bits of small bricks that will build this new world.
Right. Yeah, and talking about the open banking component is, we're breaking away from just a single financial institution where all my information resides. We can have a much broader information where mortgages and pay and checking accounts and savings and investments are across various different financial services, and you want to be able to have a common location so you can look at your financial picture and your financial future that you're going to be looking after. Having this, broader set of information helps, be able to consolidate that information, provide more guidance and insights around how you're making your payments, whether it's at an individual level, at a corporate level, or a government level. The
Yes.
broader approach allows for that consolidation through the APIs and brought forward.
Yes, yes. And I believe also in your region, in Canada, also there is an open banking initiative driven by the government, also by the market as well.
Yes.
So Yes, this is a great trend as well. It will make the whole financed, let's say, industry, but not only the industry, the business will become more efficient.
Yes,
Everybody will do his job in better terms, on better terms.
right. No, that's good. Any other questions? Or we close up the call and wish everybody a good day. Lexi, Camelia, anything else come through?
I think we're good for questions. I think there was just the survey that Lexi's going to post in the chat.
Yes.
We just ask that our attendees fill out the survey, provide some feedback on the webinar that helps us to improve our webinars in the future.
Terrific. Thanks. Yeah.
And there, the link is right there in the chat.
All right.
Okay.
So from Canada and the Toronto region, I thank you for attending.
From Greece, Athens, I thank you also.
All right.
Have a
Hope everyone
nice
has
afternoon or good day, depending
rest
on
of
the
the-
location.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.